Good morning, I'm Ruby Ann Gallio, and I am the event director and volunteer coordinator at Keystone Heritage Park. I've been volunteering with Keystone a total of 14 years. It was a lifelong dream. At 10 years old, I saw the movie on my 10th birthday, actually, Fox and the Hound, and I had learned the word philanthropist in the 4th grade, and then by the 5th grade, seeing that movie, I was like, when I grow up, I want to have an animal sanctuary. And then Keystone kind of saved my mental health during COVID when everything was shut down and I couldn't work for 6 months because my job is working closely with people, and I just couldn't, I was not allowed to go back to work. So I came here every day, and what a great place to spend every day. So yeah, so it's the fulfillment of a childhood dream, being able to be here with nature, promoting nature, saving or providing a place for birds and other wildlife. Yeah, so I'm in the right place. So altogether we are a 58-acre nature park divided into 4 sections. It's 2 acres of garden, the wetlands experience, the desert experience, and which are all open to the public, and the archaeology, which is not open to the public, but it is very amazing in that the archaeology dates back 4,500 years is the oldest site. Then there's a second site that's 2,000 years old. Now there's also footprints at White Sands, but the important thing is that in the 70s, when this archaeology was discovered, it was the oldest evidence of village living in the Southwest in the United States. Like, people didn't know that, other people, historians, archaeologists didn't know that this area was being used by people so long ago on the long term, more than just wandering through or passing through. People were establishing homes here, and that was a big deal. It changed history, it changed textbooks. The most prominent, that's hard because we do have so many migrating birds. People come to see the gulls. We have thousands of gulls that usually land here around November. They come from Colorado, Utah, some as far as Canada. You can kind of say they follow the Rio Grande down. It's so cold up there, they follow the Rio Grande down, and then they get here and they're like, oh, it's warm enough, and they stay in El Paso, many of them here at Keystone, up until February, March, when it starts to warm up, and then they migrate back north. But then we also get the yellow-headed blackbirds, red-winged blackbirds. We've had a pelican here, that's exciting. The cormorants and the white-faced ibis, thousands. One year we were able to count up to 9,000 white-faced ibis. So yeah, I think birds are probably the most prominent thing. The cutest thing is we have one javelina. Normally javelina live in families or in groups. We don't know why this one is alone, but he's here, and he's been here over a year, and we love him. He has a name. His name is Harry.
Hello.
So once upon a time, El Paso was not a desert. We were underwater as part of an ocean, and then the ocean receded, and we were a lake. And the lake was huge. I'm talking from the Franklins to Cristo Rey. This is a large basin, but then that water receded, and then we were left with a river. What feeds rivers? So this is where Keystone comes in. There is water that would flow off the mountain into arroyos and come down to feed the river, but there were springs. There were springs that were dotted basically all along what is now the railroad track from San Elizario to Canutillo. There were springs. Our spring has been here, we can say, at least 4,000 years. And we can say that because of the archaeology. People would have settled where there was water, but that area where the archaeology is slightly higher in elevation. The spring is lower, the elevation is lower there. And so where there's water, there's food, there's materials for building. And so what happens is that this water has been seeping out of the ground. Just the water just kind of seeps out of the ground and then forms this wetlands. So when you go out there and you see cattails, coyote willow, black willow, cottonwood trees, and scrubby mesquites, that's what the whole river area used to look like, again, from San Elizario to Canutillo, because the water would just seep up out of the ground, add to the Rio Grande, which is a meandering river. Sometimes there was a lot of water, sometimes there was less water. That's based on rainfall and other factors, temperature, evaporation. But yeah, this spring has been here for thousands of years. So we have at least 2 different kinds of mesquites here, and those are definitely native. And then the cottonwood trees. People think of cottonwood trees as being only along rivers. Yeah, this was a river, and those cottonwood trees, many of them are like over 50 years old. Like, that's a native tree along the river. Well, one of my favorite trees is right here, is the Texas mountain laurel, which is it's not related to eastern laurels or other laurels. It's its own tree. It's an evergreen. It is natively found mostly in the hill country, but it does make its way all the way down here to the Chihuahuan Desert. And I mean, I love it because it supports so many different bees and hummingbirds. Like, even if they're not truly Chihuahuan desert, they're still desert adaptive. Like, we do our best to only choose desert adaptive plants that can survive super cold, super heat, are drought tolerant. And the garden itself, we do water it. Like, the 2 acres of garden, because again, we have weddings and other events here. So we do irrigate the 2 acres that are the garden. We have volunteers who work tirelessly to pull invasive weeds. Well, we do a lot. Volunteers do a lot to maintain this garden. Well, to maintain the whole area. We have a great group that we help each other become friends, and we have just this wonderful love for nature, and we get to be a part of this historical yet culturally, presently relevant area. We get to talk to people and get people to learn not to be afraid of nature, not to be afraid of the bees and the wasps. So day to day, we do have a small budget that allows for 40 hours, an employee to get paid for 40 hours of maintenance. But I want people to think of how long do they work on their yards at home. And a home is maybe on a 1/4 acre to an acre, and how much time that takes. And now we're 58 acres altogether. So for one employee, 4 hours a day, that's impossible to get to everything. So that is why we rely so heavily on volunteers. But that employee, normally, Josh is the one who's here the most. He's very knowledgeable. Like, he knows plants. He loves plants. So it's important to have someone who is kind of the foundation, and then we all learn off of him and go.
My name is Michael Gallio, and I am the Science Advisor and Landscape Manager at the Paso Desert Botanical Gardens and Keystone Heritage Park. I've been involved at Keystone. I've been on the ground every day here since 2014, so that's 11 years. My role here at Keystone actually started about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. My role here started doing restoration work. Somebody from the board of directors hired me with my company to come in and do salt cedar removal and plant cottonwoods, and we wrote a grant to the EPA and planted a whole bunch of trees and grasses and shrubs, and basically started to transform the environment around the natural wetlands area. Basically started to transform that back to a more native plant-based ecosystem. The history of Keystone Heritage Park dates back literally millions of years, but the human history dates back about 4,500 years ago. Fast forward to European settlement in the area. This site was on the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, which was the Spanish road that went from what is now Mexico City up to Santa Fe, and allowed trade and that trail allowed trade and commerce between these regions, and was as we know, it was established by the Spaniard settlers, but they used trails that had been used by indigenous folks for years and years and years before that. Fast forward to the 20th century, or maybe the 19th century, agriculture started happening around this area, and we started seeing the modification of the river floodplain into agricultural fields. And then with the advent of transportation, railroads, highways, and those things, we started seeing massive changes to the way the ecology worked, particularly at this site with the introduction of the railroads in the late 1800s. And then in the 20th century, we had the introduction of highways, and neighborhoods started coming in, and so development started coming in around this neighborhood. And that really started changing the way water was moving around this landscape. In the 1970s, the Army Corps of Engineers started planning what's called the Keystone Dam, which is a large dam that sits at the middle of a series of other dams throughout the west side of the mountains here that are all designed to protect the developing infrastructure in the valley from the flooding caused by rainfall that happens in the mountains and all of that stuff coming down. While they were doing that planning for that Keystone Dam, the Corps of Engineers did an archaeological survey here, and they discovered the archaeological site that I talked to that I spoke about that indicates that humans were settling here 4,500 years ago. And so then Keystone Dam was constructed, but the way the hydrology works is the wetlands persisted on the downstream side of the dam, which is a very interesting scenario. And there's a lot of possible different reasons for that, but given the railroad, the highway, the earthwork that was done to create the dam, the way things were changed around, the wetlands persisted on this side of the dam. Right about that same time, interest in the archaeology was really kicking off, or was there and was happening. And so the Texas Historical Commission got involved, and they protected that archaeological site, and they put an easement over that archaeological site so that no development could happen there. Keystone Archaeological Preservation and Protection Association. That organization then became Keystone Heritage Park, which is a nonprofit 501c3. And so the land is owned by the city, but managed by Keystone Heritage Park. And as a way to celebrate all of that, they got together and raised some money in conjunction with the Rotary Club and with the Junior League of El Paso, and those two organizations pitched in to build the El Paso Desert Botanical Gardens here at Keystone Heritage Park. And that brings us up to about 20 years ago, 2005. And since then, the botanical gardens have been growing and have become the wonderful place that we are sitting in today. Yeah. So a botanical garden, there actually is a definition of botanical garden, and I can't recite it verbatim, but a botanical garden is unlike your garden at home or any other type of garden because there's a curated theme to the garden. And so the plants that are chosen and the way that they are cared for is under the mission of protecting and further advancing the science of botany for those plants. And so the El Paso Desert Botanical Garden was designed as a park that would be home to native plants, native to the Chihuahuan Desert, and desert adapted plants. So the idea was plant plants that are going to serve as a demonstration to the people of El Paso in the region of the way homeowners and businesses and other landscapers could develop gardens that were lush and beautiful with native plants and plants that are adapted to the desert. Part of the inspiration for that kind of curation is that at the time especially, there was an increasing interest in native plants, getting away from the grass turf lawn, but also cautioning people not to just go with the rocks and a cactus and a yucca in their landscape, and to demonstrate that desert plants are beautiful, and you can have all of this color and excitement and interest with plants that thrive here and do very, very well here. And so the designers of the gardens did a really nice job picking out and specifying plants that were gonna do really well. And so that's where this particular botanical garden comes from. On a day-to-day basis, we are watering plants and fixing irrigation systems. We're also doing a lot of educational work. Very interestingly, we attract a lot of visitors from the Great Lakes area. So we do a lot of education, talking to folks about the plants, how to water the plants, the ethnobotany of the region, what is the cultural use of some of these plants and how it dates back. Ruby Ann, who happens to be my wife, as you know, we're walking our life journey together, and she's been involved with this as long as I have in one capacity or another. She has her experiences, in people and events and event management and that kind of thing. And so we had an event. The park had an event director who also left. Their life took them in a different direction, and there was an opening for an event director position here, and Ruby Ann stepped in to fill that role. And so my wife and I feel totally blessed to, both of us are multi-generational native El Pasoans who love the outdoors. We love this town, and here we are in this amazingly unique spot, charged with the care and curation of this place. And it is a deep responsibility that we have a love and passion for, and so we're super thankful for it.
We rely on donations, so that's why there is a fee to come into the garden, because we do not receive tax dollars from either the city or the county. So even though the land is owned by the city and we manage it, and we're very grateful that the city has given us this lease, but we still need to pay for day-to-day operations. So every $3 that comes into the garden is very necessary, so that we can keep the water running, so that we can plant these beautiful plants and keep them growing.
This is a great place for people to have their celebration, their own celebration, perhaps a wedding. A wedding is often the most important day of a couple's lives, and the Keystone Heritage Park and the El Paso Desert Botanical Gardens offer a fairy tale place to have that event. So weddings are a really important event that goes on here. And then the park itself, we're trying to do more about educating the public, and so we host the Keystone Craft and Culture Market once a month. And that market, that event, is an event that was sort of born out of the combination of other events that we were trying to host. So we have Science Sunday and Talk Tuesday and art events, and what we did is we've sort of put them all together in this Keystone Craft and Culture event, where we bring in a variety of vendors and educators and organizations where people can come and participate in some sort of crafting. A lot of times we'll have a talk by a local expert in a particular field. So sometimes we'll have a scientist come in and we'll do talks about the plants, or gardening demonstrations. Sometimes we have some fun ones where we talk about insects or snakes in the region, and we'll have live specimens and those kinds of things where people can come in and see those animals for real. What would I tell people to get people to come here? Well, for one, in the summertime, we're the coolest spot outdoors in El Paso without an air conditioner. It's true, the temperatures inside Keystone Heritage Park are probably a full 10 to 20 degrees cooler than elsewhere in the city. We are a unique park in the sense that, we're not a playground type park, we're not a recreational park. We are a park where citizens can come and learn about the beautiful nature that makes El Paso unique, or that makes the Chihuahuan Desert unique. And we have a very friendly staff of people that are here to help educate. And the tranquility and the beauty of this place is its own natural draw. And then for those who are nature enthusiasts, or even maybe don't even consider themselves nature enthusiasts but want to see some unique stuff outdoors, we have habitat right here in the middle of the city. We're very accessible. That is unlike any other place in El Paso.